All right, my camera's acting up again. Sometimes it gets grainy. This tends to happen during the morning, I guess. I haven't seen it do this during later hours of the day, but then again, I don't usually use the computer camera unless I have, you know, I used to, but I don't do it anymore. So it'll probably act decent by next Saturday when we do our stream, our regularly scheduled program. Um, since Saturday, the last Saturday was kind of a romance-filled topic, I figured we would spice things up a little bit with the MCU again. Really, it could be pretty much any films whatsoever. I don't have any strict limitation on it. That's more just a formality where when you do a stream, you kind of I said it's different from a video because when you do the video, you record the video, then you put a title on it. Whereas with the stream, if you do that, you put a title and then it's up to you to see if the title ends up sticking. Because I remember when I was talking about the Snyder Cut, that thing lasted for maybe me actually discussing it was like 5, 6, 7 minutes in a 2-hour stream. Oh, there's James. Yeah, I would leave a comment on your videos, but they keep getting deleted, so I gave up. I left my final comment. That's the one thing I like about those news channels. They have videos that just go back years and years, and they're a really good archive of all kind of things that didn't come to pass. Like there's so many videos from TYT where they're predicting that Trump won't win the election. Yeah, that's why I gave up. I was like, all right, well, if I'm just gonna write something, the video's gonna get yanked anyway. What's the point? Why bother? There's some famous artist that's gotten in trouble who made a video titled "Deleting this video in 24 hours," and then it's still is there months later. So that's to get people to react to it and come and jump and try to get it with he basically saying this is a limited edition video, and then it sits there for months, so he scammed you. That's pretty impressive, scamming somebody without asking for money. It's really cool. It's quite the accomplishment. I might make a video on what I value the most out of life or something. Um, I was thinking of something like that, so I can steal your idea with a video on my religious beliefs because a lot of it informs just the way I view things. Like, I don't think if God is real and he supposedly loves me, he wants me to talk to a group of people that don't even like me and are like wasting my time or like not giving me what I want while I give them what they want, or for me to be poor. Basically, any undesirable circumstance that you can influence. I don't see why he would want me to experience that. This is supposedly a benevolent figure. Which are three things: money, loyalty, and knowledge. And go ahead. Well, you don't really get loyalty from a lot of people. It seems that if you actually look at the stuff people state online about chicks, they make them sound much worse than, you know, I would ever have imagined because I know like guys from middle and high school that didn't own anything and they were still able to get a date. So when you're told that that's the only way to get somebody to like you, it's basically people admitting that you are not good enough to be liked for who you are. You can only be liked for materialistic things that you know don't actually inform the person that you are. That's really it's sad. Just again, when you listen to stuff people say online about chicks, it's way worse than anything I would ever state or make a claim of. I guess that just goes hand in hand with the current system of just criticize one group, let the other one get off scot free. You know, we were 5 minutes and we still haven't spoken anything about Marvel. It's crazy. I'm actually probably looking more forward to Doctor Strange 2 than No Way Home, just because Raimi's directing that, and you know, like him probably the most of any director that's been associated with the MCU. Oh yeah, they're totally not loyal either. And you know, it's funny that people always talk about how those that are not related to you are more like people who are related to you are more likely to care about you. But if you really think about a lot of the nastiest things said or done to you will be people related to, because you're usually forced to see them more depending on what your circumstances are. So they get away with more, like ridiculous things that you wouldn't put up with from most people. Yeah, it's very just rotten. I hope some of my favorite characters will pop up soon. It's gonna be a very lonely stream. It was like that last like on Saturday where for like the first I think 10 plus minutes nobody said anything and then all of a sudden it just started, you know, like I was just piling there at once. It's crazy. I'm actually looking forward to that new Spider-Man movie. Old characters like Doctor Octopus will be appearing. Well, again, I wouldn't really care if it weren't for the fact he's played by the same actor from Spider-Man 2. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Holland's performance as Peter, so I kind of just whatever to me. It is funny to watch people make little speculation videos on that movie and Doctor Strange, like this could be the beginning of the Spider Verse live action movie. It's like, yeah, okay. No, Alfred Molina is a wonderful actor. I was actually watching. I watched two movies yesterday that had him in it. It was Breakable You, which is this story where he plays the brother of this man that has like has been divorced from his sister-in-law, and then they get together. And I really liked his performance. I thought he did a decent job of, I guess, displaying like a conflicted type character. Um, and what was the other one? The Unbreakable Heart, which is about I don't want to say the epidemic, but a certain one that happened in the 80s. And I was surprised because someone uploaded a clip of that onto YouTube where it was him and Mark Ruffalo. That's the guy that plays Hulk in the MCU, arguing, and I assumed it was going to be about the two of them, like they would have equal screen time. That entire movie is carried by Mark Ruffalo. That they might he just I think Molina's in like three scenes in that whole film. I think it was still good. I just like that clip made me think something that because I saw it said he was starring in it and that he was only in three scenes. Now the only reason I'm seeing this Spider-Man movie in theaters is because Molina's in it. Because I'll try to see anything that he's in from now on. I didn't see Far From Home in theaters. I didn't see Homecoming. Neither one. I don't like Iron Boy. They can keep that. What was I gonna say? I've seen some people say that Doctor Strange 2 is WandaVision 2 or season 2, except it's a movie. which makes sense because they claim that the show was supposed to lead into the film, but then they also say that you can see the movie without seeing the show, which I don't know how that works, but okay. Then they have Danny Elfman doing the music for Doctor Strange too, and he's the guy that did the music for the first and second Spider-Man movies from 2002 2004. So it's just becoming more and more like actors from people from those two films are popping up. Oh, it looks like it definitely will be. I mean, it's fine. People, don't have to say anything. It's cool. I'm not gonna freak out over them not showing up. I know this one guy that kept saying, "I will not watch the new Spider-Man movie unless Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in it." I'm like, if they show up for a cameo where they're on screen for like a minute or less, you're really gonna sit through that whole film for that? And I was telling him I didn't really get his fixation on Andrew because for me, he's just a guy that, was in one film I thought was okay. And then was in the second one I thought was terrible. So like I don't really care to see him ever again. And I don't feel bad saying that because if you go on Twitter, there's a lot of people that talk trash about Toby. So they can have theirs. No, if you heard him speak, he sound like a robot. I will not watch this movie unless, and they would keep saying their full names. like, like if he just says their first names, I'm not going to know who he's talking about because we all know so many people have played Spider-Man in the last 20 years. No, I thought Amazing Spider-Man 2 was one of the worst movies I ever saw. Like I hated it. I thought it was just complete horse manure. What do you mean same, James? I don't even know what you're referring to. I was saying that one of the problems I had with that film was that it was a rushed, overstuffed um, trailer for other movies. Like, and it kind of accidentally makes the first one worse. Not actually makes me dislike the first one, but it has continuity errors. So in Amazing Spider-Man 2, we're told that Harry is supposedly this lifelong best friend of Peter, but he's never mentioned in the first one at any point. Just completely just shows up in the second movie. Oh yeah, we're lifelong friends. And then whereas in the Raimi films where there was a 3-film transformation into Harry becoming a villain, it's all done in this one movie on top of not being the central focus because you still have Electro as the other villain. And it's just really irritating to know that they only put Harry in there uh, as a way to have a goblin kill Gwen. And then we found out that apparently when they made their future films, so Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4 and Sinister Six and all that trash, they weren't even going to have Gwen get mentioned. They were going to have Peter and Harry interact as if the former uh, excuse me, had not killed her. Like she would have just been completely unacknowledged. That wouldn't have been like a big thing that, made them enemies. Because in the comics, and I have to give Wiki Piss credit for this. When I went on Norman Osborn's Wikipedia page, it said, It was like describing him as the father of whoever, and it said, and the killer of Gwen Stacy, Ben Riley, and Flash Thompson. I was like, damn, if that doesn't make him Spider-Man's archenemy, I don't know what does. But again, my point is that the comics do a decent job of like depicting Peter as always having a specific personal hatred for Norman because he killed at one point one person he really cared about, and then later on several people that he cared about. Uh, and these films were just gonna, completely not acknowledge that component of his character, which is the continuity of being pissed off at this person for, murdering an innocent person, let alone one that he had a specific care for. James still won't tell me what he means by Sam, so I'll have to like live with the mystery and speculate. It's always funny to go on Twitter and see people who are like reacting happily to Spider-Man 4 getting canceled. They were gonna have Vulture and they were gonna have Black Cat be his sidekick or like a female version. And I said, well, I'd rather have that than what they were going to do with Amazing Spider-Man, where for the third one they were gonna have Peter get some kind of resurrection serum that was gonna bring back dead people to being alive again. And what? James, you know how you know that movie is no, I'm not gonna say it. Well, it's the least grossing. So before Far From Home came out, Spider-Man 3 was the highest grossing Spider-Man movie. And the lowest grossing one was Amazing Spider-Man 2. It is always funny to watch people talk trash about Spider-Man 3, but why did it make the most money, like over the supposed good ones? And the only reason I bring up how much it made is because when people don't like a movie and it doesn't do well, like with Ghostbusters, the 2016 one, where they say, oh, it was a box office bomb, that's how you know it was bad. But then when a film they don't like does very well financially, well, that it's still bad. But you're citing how much it makes as being a component of how bad it is. So the more it makes, supposedly, is the more good it is, right? You see how they have to like flip their morals around when it doesn't benefit them anymore. Look at Captain Marvel. I know a lot of people who say they don't like that movie, but admit it was a financial success, made over $1 billion. Now, of course, a lot of us who are detractors of that would say it's because they stuck it in between Endgame and Infinity War, and positioned it as having to do with the overall conclusion of the story. If I did a top 10 worst superhero movies, that would be on there. I thought that thing was that was the first one of the because I was 4 when the first Spider-Man came out in 2002. I don't know if I saw it in theaters. I know I had it on DVD. That was the first one I didn't see in theaters. Most films that did even perform at the box office were actually good, like The American Psycho. It flopped, but people still talk about it till this day. Well, that's what really gets on my nerves because, look, when someone doesn't like something and it doesn't do well financially, they use that to attack it. But there are a lot of good movies or good are things that are considered good that don't do well, but still are held in high regard. Just like, for example, with Nightmare on Elm Street, a lot of people think the first, third, and seventh movies are the best. And the seventh one did worse than any other film in the entire franchise, but it's still considered by a lot of people to be among the best installments. See what I'm saying? How they can't, when they can't do their little financial game, then they start switching it up. It's very hard for a sequel to do better than its predecessor. Like whenever sequels sell more than the first one, that's a hell of an accomplishment. And that's if I were to think about it, it's been Infinity War and Endgame, they sold more than Avengers. Spider-Man 3, Thor Ragnarok, and I think Iron Man 3. Again, outside of those, I can't think of. Yeah, I think Civil War also did better than the first Avenger. But my point is, it's very rare to see a sequel perform better financially than its predecessor. Well, Transformers 5 did well, but it still did worse than all of the other, if I remember correctly, all of the installments up to that point. So, like the first one that came out in 2007 did better than that one. Again, don't quote me. I'll look it up right now. I just want to make sure I'm not telling you a lie. I don't want you to say you tried to misrepresent the numbers to defend that movie. No, I would never. So it grossed 600 million, and according to WikiPiss, the film became the franchise's second box office bomb, grossing 605 million worldwide against a production budget between 2 million, with an estimated loss of over 1 million for both Paramount and Hasbro. So out of all the live action movies, that was the first one to that's the only one rather to be a box office bomb. The first one was the animated one from '86 where they killed off Optimus Prime and replaced him with Rodimus. Oh my god. Hold on, let me see if I can prove that that's the worst performing of the live action ones. Give me a second. It looks like it. Yeah, the first Transformers made 700 million, and then Transformers 5 made 600 million. So it did worse than every installment up to that point, except Bumblebee. That's why I think it's funny that Bumblebee is supposed to be the like really good one, or according to some people, the only good one. And yet it did the worst of it, which again doesn't mean automatically make it bad. But do you see how a lot of times what people perceive as quality, the numbers don't bear out? No, I didn't see that one. I stopped seeing them in theaters after the third one because when that came out, they said that was the last one, and then they made a fourth one where they kill off Ratchet, who is, at that point was one of the few that had appeared in, like he had been in every one up to that point, which really annoyed me. So I walked away. I said I'm good. So it's time for me to disappear. No, I really hate when they do that when they the little character deaths and they're so stupid. They do it at the beginning of the movie, and they think that when they do it to a character that's been around for a while, it's supposed to go. You're supposed to any character can die. It's like no, you're not going to kill off Bumblebee. You don't. You're not. He's become too popular. So you guys weren't even doing anything with Ratchet after the first movie anyway. Like I don't remember anything he did in the second or third one other than uh I guess helping Optimus put on Jetfire's corpses pieces or whatever. Like outside of that, I don't remember anything else he did. The only thing that apparently it was good was that they focused more on the Transformers, but I mean, again, too little, too late because they'd really been screwing themselves ever since like I'd say after the first movie. Like the second one was made without a script, which is why a lot of people say it's bad. Uh, it was goofy. But yeah, Bumblebee's apparently the best movie, and yet it did the worst. How's that work? It's the same thing with the Spider-Man trilogy, where people say the second one is the best one, which I probably would agree with, but it did the worst out of the three. And that doesn't have to always be the case because a lot of people say Ragnarok is the best Thor movie. Even though I like the first one the most because I like how it's this story about somebody trying to like become worthy by being living among regular whatever. But it performed the best out of the three, so it doesn't always have to be where the one people say is the best does the worst. It's just I don't know what it is. We need some more characters in here. No, if I had my way, they would put Alfred Molina as Doc Ock in like 5 movies because Doc Ock's a very important character, like just to the Spider-Man mythos. Let's start. He's the first villain to beat Spider-Man in a fight. He's the one that makes the Sinister Six. He tried to marry Aunt May to get her inheritance before killing her off, so he would inherit it. He had a gang war with Hammerhead. He almost beat Black Cat to death. And then after Spider-Man beat him up, he became scared of him because he was convinced he could never defeat him in a fight. He tried to blow up New York just to kill Spider-Man because he figured that if he destroyed the whole city, he would die too. What's something? Oh, let's not forget the newest, biggest one. He stole Spider-Man's body for over a year in real life. It was like I guess weeks or months in comics. Superior Spider-Man, to try to become a better Spider-Man than him. So there's a whole bunch of stuff he did. What do you mean, really? You think I made that up? I told you, James. I read Spider-Man comics. I know what happened. Really. All I'm saying is Doc Ock's a character you could do a lot with if they wanted to. That's really the only problem I have with the Raimi films. They would kill off all the villains except Sandman, who is like the only villain I've ever seen that goes from being evil to good to evil. It's just revolving door. He's like the Spider-Man version of Catwoman, even more so than Black Cat, where he's a villain, sometimes he's a good guy. It depends who's writing. Now James mistook me for one of these commoners. I'll have you know that I read comics, sir. What a sick thing for you to say. Really, didn't know he was that important, and it looks like Sandman is immortal. I mean, he's one of Spider-Man's arch enemies. It's him, Green Goblin, and Venom. And really, people more so believe it's just Green Goblin and Doc Ock because Venom hasn't really done any lasting damage to Peter. He just creeped him out because he was one of the few that knew his identity and he could like torment him in ways that other villains couldn't. I don't know who you thought was important if you didn't know Doc Ock was that important. I remember there's this one issue came out in the '90s where we find out that Doc Ock's dad was abusive and that his mom was she died like a month before he became a villain. She just barely missed her son becoming one of the world's leading supervillains. So that's how you know Spider-Man 2 wasn't written like a lot of these movies now where it was meant to just be a standalone story. Because if it was written in the MCU, they would have like 10 sequels playing. This character's gonna be in that movie, and in this movie, and in that movie. Hey, did you ever see Infinity War? Because I don't want to say anything that spoils that for you. Because we still have to worry about people seeing like they go, "How could you tell me what happened?" It's like this movie came out 30 years ago. I did see that on a Star Wars forum where someone not forum but like somebody was streaming and they mentioned something about I think Empire Strikes Back and the person got mad in the comment section. So when somebody was like, so they kill off Loki, uh, and Gamora, and then in the next film, the next Avengers movie, they have Loki alive technically by getting the I forgot I think it was the Tesseract, whatever that thing's name is, and teleporting away. And they have Gamora alive through an alternate timeline as well. That's how you know killing off characters is a mistake. Like most of the time, it's always an error because a lot of people like to crap on comics for killing off characters and bringing them back, even though there are a lot of characters that when they die, you never see them again. Uh, like I can name probably 10 from Spider-Man alone that have died and like don't come back. But I just think it's funny that even the I guess film universe is starting to go in that same direction. James, did you know that when the original Green Goblin died after killing Gwen, he was dead for 20 years? Which is apparently the longest death of an archenemy of a major supervillain in American comics. The longest period where they just weren't used. From 1970, I think it was 1973 to 96. That was a really just that was probably one of the most ballsiest things Marvel did because he was supposed to just be dead. Gary Conway, the guy that wrote the story, wanted to keep Green Goblin around, the identity, but not Norman, because he thought he was kind of like just bland. So he had Harry become Green Goblin. Um, and they were just going to keep Norman dead until one of the writers for the Clone Saga decided to bring him back. So it wasn't planned for it to be 20 years. It was planned to be forever. But then, they undid it. It was the same thing with Bucky from Captain America. From the time Captain America was revived in the 60s up until the 2000s, right? 40 years. Bucky was just dead. He was just this character that would show up in like flashback stories. And then he was revealed to be alive as the Winter Soldier. Same thing with the second Robin, 18 years. He was just dead, killed by the Joker, and then he pops up as as the Red Hood. Well, like I said, they when they do those deaths that are like not reversed for a long time, it's because they intend for the character to stay dead. It was like that with Harry too. He died in I think it was '93, like right after Carnage showed up, and then he pops back up. Uh, after one more day. So that's like 13, 14 years. Again, I just when you look at these scenarios, it's really basically writers admitting that deaths are just like from a standpoint of writing a long-term story a mistake. Really, the only death that was written and was meant to be temporary was Death of Superman. All the other ones, they were supposed to be permanent, and they just kept getting reversed and undone and switched out. What else is here? Now, I heard at one point they were going to use Sandman again, the same actor from Spider-Man 3. I was really hoping they would, in maybe some other film, unless they're doing Sinister Six, because I don't want it to be overstuffed with a bunch of characters that they don't develop. They love doing that. They stick a 99 characters in one movie. Really, it's been like that ever since Age of Ultron. And we had like 10 or 11 main characters. You got the six Avengers from the first movie, and then you have Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver and Ultron, and then Vision, who shows up all the way at the end or like in the third act. Still mad about no Hulk movie. That I'm never gonna get over that unless they make another one. But thanks to Universal, I'll probably see some gray hairs before we see another Hulk movie. And it sucks too because Mark Ruffalo's a good actor. I'm very confident in his ability to carry a film as its lead, but he can't do it. Thanks to that stupid studio. I feel so bad for him. Because again, I think Hulk's an interesting character with some very good villains. You got Leader, Abomination, Red Hulk, Red She-Hulk, and you're never going to see any of that stuff unless it's part of some ensemble movie with 5 or 6 or 7 other characters taking the spotlight. It's like him and Hawkeye that, like, out of those first 6 Avengers, have been done the dirtiest in the MCU. Because even before Black Widow got her own movie, she still was like in other stuff. Like she's in the second and third Captain America films and Iron Man 2. She's not limited to just being in Avengers like Hawkeye was. I think it's really sad. Yeah, they also did Quicksilver dirty too. We already talked about that. Quicksilver is one of the longest lasting members of the Avengers. He joined them in their second year of existing. And they're going to have him be in one movie before getting killed off. I think that's really lame. We have to kill off a character to give the movie some stakes and for it to be surprised. But it wasn't that it didn't do anything other than shock people the first time they saw it, and now it's just, hey, let's barely develop this character and have him become a good guy before he gets killed off. Now, the only Avenger that joins after the first movie that they care about developing is Scarlet Witch. It's the only one. And I was watching a video somebody made on WandaVision, which I said I did enjoy, and I'd probably give the overall show an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I thought it was nice. Last episode wasn't as good as the rest of it, but I still enjoyed it. But one of the points that somebody made that was really good was that the show doesn't address really anything about the current status of other superheroes. Like none of the other Avengers are mentioned at all, really. Um, and you're kind of left with very little answers as to what the state of these heroes is anymore. And it's been the same thing with Falcon and Winter Soldier. We hear Steve get mentioned a couple of times, and I know they mentioned Tony at one point, but we don't really know what the conditions of that group are going into a second show. I'm not sure why another Hulk movie is going to be made. But yeah, I don't about Silver Surfer. I don't think he'll ever be included. Well, he won't be included. Well, he wasn't included. Excuse me, because he's considered a Fantastic Four character, and those rights were for another studio. So that's why him and Galactus didn't show up in any of the MCU films. Same thing with Doctor Doom. But now they have the rights, so they can use them if they want to. No, another Hulk movie won't be made because the studio is, greedy. Marvel made the biggest mistake ever when they sold off their film rights. Like some of the X-Men movies are good. Some of the I like most of the Spider-Man and X-Men stuff, but the Fantastic Four films were, considered bad. And then the same thing with the Hulk movie that was made in 2003. So it's all coming back to bite them in the back. I'm not sure why another Hulk movie is going to be made. It's not. That's one of Marvel's lead characters, and he's stuck in limbo, having to appear in other people's crap. I mistyped. I meant to say I'm not sure why they won't make another Hulk. Yeah, well, now you know. Studio interference. And I'm telling you, that movie and the Black Widow movie are like the same thing where I can pull up statements where they were talking about you might not get a sequel to Hulk until after the first Avengers. You remember how long it's been since the first Avengers came out, right? 9 years. And here we are almost a decade later. Still no movie. Which sucks too, because they could easily, again, assuming that they had the rights, make 3 movies that are set in between that time period after Infinity War and Endgame, so that 5-year time skip, right? Where it's Hulk learning how to control, like how he turns into Professor Hulk, like I'm talking about like a character arc for him. He's got enough villains to do that. He's got. I mean, it's so crazy to me that they don't bother. But I'm pretty sure it's probably because the past Hulk movies, and since he's part of the Avengers, now what's the point of making since you already know his backstory? I mean, we already knew what Black Widow's backstory was when it was explored a little bit in Age of Ultron, but that didn't stop them from making a whole movie about her. So listen, if a character is popular, people want more of it. Like there are still people who want Iron Man 4. So it's it's not really about having like seen the complete story or anything. There's all as long as there are little gaps in time where we saw nothing of the character, you can create something in that period. And again, a 5-year time skip, and you're telling me they can't make a movie about that? Come on. Because even though we know what ends up happening, we still don't know what he did specifically. What was the journey of going from I can't control this beast within me to oh now I'm always transformed as the beast. Since Black Widow died, they're probably thinking, hey, let's make a movie about her and make money off of it. Right, but well, listen, I'm saying that that film has been in development for over 10 years. They've been talking about that movie since she first appeared in Iron Man 2. If you don't believe me, I can find you a news article where they said it'd be interesting to do that, but our focus is on Avengers. So that idea of a movie about her has been around for a long time. It's just by pure happenstance that it's getting released after Endgame. Which, by the way, originally it was supposed to be Hawkeye that died, and then some of the staff members convinced them to switch it up. No, it's not about not liking Hulk. They don't have the rights. I'll give you an example. Spectacular Spider-Man, right? That cartoon was barred from using any superheroes or villains that were not Spider-Man related. So Greg Wiseman, the guy that made the show, he wanted to have Spider-Man and Human Torch cross over and like do stuff together. He couldn't do it because he didn't have the rights. If you don't have the rights, it doesn't matter what you want to do. You're not allowed to do it. Just like if I wanted to make, what's a good example? I'll give you another instance. The Friday the 13th video game. The guys making that wanted to put in another playable character. They wanted to put all kind of little different stages. But when they were making it, the guy who made the first movie was suing. I forget. I think I don't remember the studio's name, but he was suing to get the rights to the series that he didn't think he was credited for properly. So while they were making these new updates for the game, they got a cease and desist letter because since they didn't have the rights, they couldn't make more content for a game that they don't own the rights to, the characters of. I'm just saying that if you go through this stuff one by one, you can find a lot of instances where people want to make something, but they can't. Or they want to do something, but they're not allowed to. Oh, let me throw this in about WikiPiss. They did something I thought was funny. Um, so on Wikipedia, they have pages for most of the and I was making this joke yesterday. They have pages for most of the like major characters from the MCU. And someone wrote that they wanted to make one for Captain Marvel because she's quote unquote, this is what they said, the main MCU character going forward. And like I thought that was such a weird way to phrase that she's a central character because it literally in Endgame, every single um, combatant in that final battle, with the exception of maybe Valkyrie, appears in more movies than Captain Marvel. So do you get why it's funny that the supposed main MCU character going forward is less recurring than all of these other supposed not as important characters? Do you understand why that's funny? That's like me saying, uh, "Oh yes, Superman is the main DC character," but even though he's only in his comic, but then Batman is in his own comic and Justice League, so we're seeing Batman twice as much as we see Superman, but he's the main DC character. But like that's minor, and I'm not trying to. I just thought that was funny. The main MCU character going forward. You wish. This one guy I was talking to yesterday, he said that they probably meant that she was like Captain America or Iron Man. I was like, no, that still is a bad comparison because in every phase of the MCU, they had Robert Downey Jr., so the actor who played Iron Man, attached to at least two movies. So for the first phase, he appears in Iron Man 2, and the Avengers. The second phase, he appears in Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron. And the third phase is in Civil War and Endgame and Infinity War, and also Spider-Man Homecoming. And the same thing with Captain America. He's in 3 of his own films, 4 Avengers movies. Uh, so what I'm saying is, with the characters who actually were the major, like the centerpiece characters of the MCU, they always appear in each phase in at least 2 movies. Captain Marvel's only going to appear in 1 more film, as far as we're aware, because there isn't no. To be fair, there is no Avengers scheduled for this phase. But my point is still stands, which is that you can look at the characters that this person cited as her possibly being considered the replacement of, and they appear in multiple films each phase, where she's only appearing in 1 more movie. The main MCU character going forward. I mean, hell, by that logic, Star-Lord's the main character at this point, because he's let's see, he's been in 4 movies already. The 2 Guardian films and Infinity War and Endgame. He's supposed to be in Guardians 3, and he's going to be in a new Thor movie. So he'll have been in twice as many films as Captain Marvel. But I don't see anybody saying he's the main MCU character, despite being more recurring. I just thought that was hilarious. I'm the main character, that's why I appear less often than everybody else. It's the opposite day already. I know that James probably doesn't get what I was saying. I just thought that was amusing, because I don't like Brie Larson as an actress. Like, she's the only. I said before, she's the only actor I don't like in the entire MCU. Just their performance, them, whatever. So that's why it's funny that she is apparently going to play the least appearing, quote unquote, main character out of the whole franchise. Oh my god. That's so sad that she got a solo movie before Black Widow. Like, imagine appearing in what is that, 7, 8 films as like either a supporting character or part of some ensemble cast or whatever, and then some random broad shows up. She gets to star in the movie before you. In that same franchise, Captain Marvel only has 1 movie to her name. Not sure how she's considered part of the main MCU. No, I'm saying that the guy on Wikipedia described her as the main MCU character going forward, as in the top 1, but it doesn't make any sense from any perspective, because she's the only movie she's in besides Captain Marvel is Endgame, and she's only in that for like 5 minutes. Rocket Raccoon is more recurring than her. Like, every other character almost in the MCU that has like is a titular character, like Doctor Strange, right? He's in his movie. He's in Infinity War in a big role. He's in Endgame. He's gonna have his second. Like he's actually I take that back. You know what? He's gonna be in Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home. But somehow all these characters that appear more than her are lesser than she is. And you did get the example I gave of how the two people that like he cited as her replacing both were in multiple films per phase, where she's only going to be in one more movie as far as we're aware. The main MCU character going for. Now Marvel's not stupid. They know she has a specific distaste that all the other actresses and actors don't have. They're not dumb. If she appears in anything after Captain Marvel 2, which I still just ugh, it's going to be part of some ensemble cast where somebody else gets more screen time, or they don't, because I don't, if they do a second one they'll probably do a third one. So you get my point. It's like I don't think she'll ever have more appearances than most characters that have already been introduced. What a terrible main character. Like you picked the worst one as your lead protagonist. I told you with Endgame, you can tell they cut out her role that she was meant to do more, and they were like, "No, we're not about to risk damaging our centerpiece finale film for you." Damn, it's really hard to think what character has she appeared more than? Because even a lot of the like ones who've never had their own film have appeared more than she has. It's really crazy. Oh, James, do you like Guardians of the Galaxy? I want to ask that because I really like the first and second one. Some people like say second one's not as good as the first one. Well, you can still have a movie that's good without it being as good as something else. Like what? That's the main thing I hate about movies. If something's not as good as something else, it's automatically bad. The main MCU character going forward. Apply that to anything else, and it's really comedic. I just can't believe a movie franchise that's this big was really successful. Because a lot of the villains, even if I think they're one note, I don't really dislike them because I just expect villains to not be that complex a lot of times. Um, but wow, it took them over 10 years of just making films almost every year to make a character. I was like, no, this is bad. Get rid of this one. What an accomplishment. Oh my god. Yeah, a lot of people were surprised by how good it was when it came out. I mean, you kind of have to remember that the films do a lot for characters' reputations. Like, you didn't see anyone talking about Thanos before Infinity War came out. And then the only reason the MCU was built around the Avengers is because when they started making films, they couldn't do anything with X-Men or Fantastic Four. A lot of people forget Fantastic Four was at one point Marvel's best-selling book until a certain red and blue colored superhero showed up and and whooped their four behinds off of the top spot. All right, we've been going for an hour. I said all of what I need to say probably. Thanks for participating, James. I really appreciate it. I will comment on your stuff, but it's gonna get yanked, so I'm not gonna bother. Uh, your your videos have a shorter lifespan than milk. You thumb up the video today, it's gone in 3 weeks. So I appreciate you showing up. I'll stream again on Saturday. Videos I put up, throughout the week as usual. And have a good day.